The family vacation disaster. It was supposed to be the vacation of a lifetime. My parents had spent over a year planning it, every little detail was mapped out. Tickets, hotels, attractions, everything. For once, we weren't just going to visit our grandparents or stay home, we were going to the coast of Spain for 2 whole weeks. My younger brother, Daniel, wouldn't shut up about the water parks. Mom was daydreaming about the shopping malls she saw online. Dad? He just wanted to sit on the beach with a drink in his hand and not think about work. Me? I was just hoping the trip would give our family a break from all the arguments we'd been having lately. But instead, it did the exact opposite. We landed at the airport full of excitement, but that excitement vanished within minutes. Our luggage never showed up. We stood by the carousel for what felt like hours until finally, an airline employee told us our bags were delayed. They might come tomorrow. Or the day after. Or maybe never. Mom immediately went into meltdown mode. Dad argued with the airline staff so loudly that other travelers were staring. Daniel asked if he could at least go swimming in his shorts. I thought this was the worst way a vacation could start. But what happened on day 2 made us wish we had never gone on that vacation at all. The next morning, Dad woke up burning with fever. He was shivering, sweating, and could barely get out of bed. Mom panicked, yelling at me to call for a doctor. We ended up rushing him to a nearby hospital. The problem? Hardly anyone there spoke English. With the little Spanish I remembered from school, I tried my best to translate. The doctors finally explained, Dad had severe food poisoning. He had to stay in the hospital for at least 3 days. So there we were, 3 family members stranded in a foreign country, no luggage, barely any money, and our dad hooked up to IVs in a hospital bed. I remember sitting there, thinking, is this really happening? And then, just when things couldn't get worse, we discovered something shocking about our hotel booking. That evening, Mom and I went back to the hotel to rest. When we arrived, the receptionist told us there was a problem. Apparently, due to some booking error, our room was only reserved for 3 nights, not 2 weeks. And since the hotel was fully booked, we had to check out. Mom nearly fainted on the spot. She begged them to let us stay, but it didn't matter. They gave us our deposit back and handed us a list of cheaper alternatives. So we ended up in this tiny, run-down motel that smelled like cigarettes and mold. The shower barely worked, and there were stains on the sheets. Daniel cried because there was no Wi-Fi. The next morning, things got even worse. While Mom was arguing on the phone with the travel agency, Daniel decided to wander off. When we noticed he was missing, we panicked. I ran out into the busy street, calling his name. For 30 minutes, we searched frantically until finally, I spotted him in a crowded market, watching a street performer. Mom started crying right there in the middle of the market, hugging him so tightly that he complained he couldn't breathe. By that point, the vacation wasn't fun anymore, it was survival. Every day something went wrong. Finally, after 3 days, Dad was discharged from the hospital. He looked exhausted but insisted we try to salvage the trip. He didn't want all the money to go to waste. So we went to the beach. For the first time, it felt normal. We sat together, watching the waves. Daniel built a sandcastle, Mom finally relaxed, and Dad just laid back in the sun. But of course, peace didn't last long. Because that night, everything came crashing down again in the worst family argument we've ever had. We were eating dinner at a small restaurant when Dad casually mentioned he wanted to cut the trip short and go home early. Mom snapped. She said she refused to waste her dream vacation. The argument escalated. Dad accused her of being selfish. Mom accused him of ruining everything with his bad attitude. Daniel started crying, and I just sat there in silence, wishing I could disappear. At one point, Dad slammed his fist on the table so hard that people around us stared. Mom stormed out, saying she was going back to the motel alone. That was the lowest point. I remember thinking, this is it. Our family is falling apart. The next morning, something changed. Dad apologized first. He admitted he was stressed and sick and just wanted to feel in control again. Mom apologized too, saying she'd put too much pressure on making the vacation perfect. We all sat together in that crappy motel room, and for the first time, we talked. Really talked. About how we were always fighting at home, about how we needed to listen to each other more. It wasn't some magical fix, but it was real. The rest of the trip wasn't perfect. We never got our luggage back, the motel stayed gross, and Dad kept complaining about his stomach. But weirdly enough, I think it brought us closer. When we flew home, Mom said something I'll never forget. You know what? Maybe disasters make the best memories. She was kind of right. Even now, years later, we laugh about the vacation from hell. It wasn't the trip we wanted, but maybe it was the one we needed. My sister's secret life. I always thought I knew everything about my sister. Emily was the perfect child in our family, the one with straight A's, the one who never got in trouble, the one my parents always compared me to. She was 2 years older than me, and while I struggled with homework and tried to stay out of trouble, Emily seemed like she had her life completely figured out. But the truth? I didn't know her at all. It started one night when I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs to get some water, and that's when I saw it, Emily sneaking out the back door. She didn't see me, but I caught a glimpse of her outfit. It wasn't her usual jeans and hoodie. She was dressed up, like she was going to a party. At first, I thought, okay, maybe she's just meeting friends. But then I remembered my parents had been really strict with her lately. They said no going out at night, especially on school days. So where was she going? I decided to follow her. And that's when things started getting scary. I waited a few minutes before sneaking out myself, keeping a safe distance behind her. She walked fast, almost like she knew she couldn't be caught. Eventually, she reached the bus station, got on a late-night bus, and I slipped on right after her. My heart was pounding the whole time. The bus ride was long. Almost an hour later, we got off in a completely different part of town, a part I'd never been to before. The streets were busy even at night, filled with bars, clubs, and neon signs. And then I saw her walk into a nightclub. I froze. My sister, the girl who was supposed to be the family's golden child, was sneaking into a nightclub on a school night. I almost went in after her, but I chickened out. Instead, I went home, pretending nothing had happened. The next morning, Emily acted completely normal. She ate breakfast with us, smiled at Mom, even reminded me to take my homework. It was like nothing had happened. But now I couldn't stop thinking about it. Where was she really going? What was she doing in that club? And that's when I made the biggest mistake. I confronted her directly. That night, I went into her room and just blurted it out. I saw you sneaking out last night. Her face instantly went pale. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she whispered, "You can't tell Mom and Dad. Please." I asked her why. She refused to answer. She just kept saying, "You don't understand." Finally, she admitted, she had been sneaking out for months. She wasn't just hanging out with friends, she was working. Working? At a nightclub? She explained that she had gotten a fake ID and was waitressing at this club late at night. I was shocked. My sister, the straight A, perfect daughter, was secretly working in a nightclub. But why? We weren't poor. Our parents weren't rich, but they provided for us. That's when she told me the truth. Emily had met a guy online a year ago. They started dating, and when our parents found out, they forbid her from seeing him. They said he was too old, irresponsible, and a bad influence. But Emily didn't care. She kept seeing him behind their backs. And the job at the nightclub? It wasn't just for money. He worked there as a DJ, and she wanted to be with him. My jaw literally dropped. But the worst part? That boyfriend of hers was hiding something even darker. The more Emily talked, the more worried I became. She admitted this guy was 24 years old. She was only 17. I couldn't believe it. I begged her to stop seeing him, but she refused. She said he understood her in ways our parents never did. I didn't know what to do. If I told Mom and Dad, she'd hate me forever. But if I stayed quiet, she could get hurt. So I decided to do some digging on my own. The next time Emily snuck out, I followed her again. This time, I actually went inside the nightclub. The music was deafening, the air smelled like alcohol and smoke, and people were everywhere. I spotted Emily almost immediately. She was laughing and talking with a guy near the DJ booth. He looked way older than her. And something about him just felt wrong. I pulled out my phone, snapped a picture, and left. The next day, I showed the photo to my best friend, who was good at finding people online. Within an hour, she had tracked down his social media. That's when everything clicked. This guy wasn't just some random DJ. He had a record. A real criminal record. Fights, arrests, even drug charges. Suddenly, I realized my sister wasn't just sneaking around, she was in real danger. I didn't know what to do. Should I tell my parents? Should I confront Emily again? That night, I decided to talk to her one last time. I showed her the photo, the record, everything. She broke down crying. She admitted she already knew some of it but didn't want to believe it. She thought he would change for her. I told her that wasn't how it worked. Guys like him didn't just change. She promised she'd stop seeing him. She even said she'd quit the nightclub job. But deep down, I wasn't sure if I could believe her. A week later, my parents finally found out everything. I didn't tell them, Emily did. She came clean, crying, saying she had made a mistake. At first, my parents were furious. But eventually, they realized she was scared and needed support, not just punishment. They grounded her for months, took away her phone, and even made her see a counselor. Emily hated me for a while, thinking I betrayed her. But later, she thanked me. She said if I hadn't stepped in, she might have kept going down that dangerous path. Now, years later, she laughs about it. She's in college, doing great, and dating a normal guy her own age. But whenever the topic comes up, she still cringes and says, "Yeah, that was my bad decisions phase." As for me, I learned that even the people you think you know best can have entire secret lives. The day my parents lied to me. Growing up, I always thought my parents were the most honest people in the world. They were the type who would tell you the truth even if it hurt, and they always taught me that lying only makes things worse. So imagine my shock when I discovered that the biggest lie in my life came from them. It all started when I was 16. I had been filling out a form for school, and one of the questions asked for my birth certificate. Simple enough, right? I went to the drawer where we kept important documents, pulled out a folder, and that's when I saw it, 2 different papers. One was my birth certificate. The other looked like another birth certificate. But this one had my name spelled differently. At first, I thought it was a typo. But then I looked closer. The dates didn't match. The parents' names didn't match either. My stomach dropped. That's when I realized, maybe the people I called Mom and Dad weren't telling me everything. That night at dinner, I tried to act normal. But I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen. Finally, I blurted it out. "Why are there 2 birth certificates with my name on them?" The room went completely silent. My mom dropped her fork. My dad froze mid-bite. Then my mom said, "We'll talk after dinner." I barely touched my food. My hands were shaking the whole time. After we cleaned up, my parents sat me down in the living room. My dad sighed and said, "You're old enough to know the truth now." The truth? That's when they told me I was adopted. My real mom was my dad's younger sister. She had me when she was only 18 and couldn't take care of a baby. So my parents stepped in and raised me as their own. For 16 years, they had kept this a secret. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. But what hurt the most wasn't the adoption, it was the rest of the story they had been hiding. My real mom, my aunt, hadn't just given me up because she was too young. That was part of it, yes, but there was more. She had wanted to keep me. She begged my dad and mom to let her try. But my grandparents thought it would ruin the family's reputation, so they pressured her to give me up. And the worst part? My aunt didn't just move away and forget about me. She lived only 20 minutes from us the whole time. I had grown up seeing her at family holidays, birthday parties, and reunions, never knowing she was actually my biological mother. I felt sick. The next day at school, I couldn't focus. Every time I thought about my aunt, my chest felt heavy. Had she been looking at me all those years, wishing she could tell me the truth? That night, I decided I had to talk to her. I texted her, "Can we meet? Alone?" She agreed. And what she told me turned everything upside down again. We met at a small coffee shop. I was nervous, my hands sweating as I sat across from her. She looked just as nervous. Finally, she said, "They told you, didn't they?" I nodded. She started crying before I even asked a question. She said she had wanted to tell me the truth so many times, but my parents begged her not to. They wanted me to have a normal childhood without confusion. But here's the thing, she admitted she had written me letters. Every birthday, every Christmas, she wrote one. She kept them all in a box at her house, waiting for the day I would be ready. When she told me that, I couldn't stop crying. But then she confessed something even darker, something my parents had never told me. She said my biological father had been dangerous. He was older, manipulative, and he pressured her into a relationship when she was still in high school. When she got pregnant, he disappeared. My grandparents were terrified of the scandal and didn't want me growing up in a broken home. That's why they forced her to give me up. And that's why my parents raised me as their own. I didn't know what to feel. On one hand, I was grateful. They gave me a safe, stable home. On the other hand, I felt betrayed. My entire childhood was built on a lie. The next few weeks were rough. I barely spoke to my parents. I avoided family gatherings. I didn't know who to trust anymore. But I kept visiting my aunt, my mom. She showed me the letters, and I read every single one. Some were messy and tear-stained, others full of love and hope. Each one ended the same way, "Maybe one day, you'll know the truth. Until then, I love you." I cried every single time. Eventually, I had to make a choice, stay angry at my parents forever, or try to understand why they did what they did. One night, I finally sat them down and asked, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" My mom broke down crying. She said they were scared. They didn't want me to feel unwanted. They thought telling me the truth would make me hate them. My dad admitted it wasn't fair, but at the time, it felt like the only way to protect me. I didn't forgive them immediately. But over time, I realized something, they weren't lying because they hated me. They lied because they loved me, even if it was the wrong way to show it. Now, years later, I have two moms. One who raised me, and one who gave birth to me. Do I wish they had told me sooner? Absolutely. Do I still struggle with trust issues sometimes? Yes. But I also know this, family is complicated. Sometimes love makes people do things they shouldn't. And sometimes, forgiveness is the only way forward.